Hello. Welcome back to my channel. It is Tuesday. How are you good folks doing? I hope that your weekend was good. If I didn't see you on the weekend, and I hope that your week has been going well so far. I do have 3 cases for you guys today. As I said, if I seem a little bit like under the weather, I'm telling you, the spring, even though I'm a spring baby, shout out to my Aries gang. I've been having crazy weather where I'm at. So 1 minute is nice and warm, the next minute is dropping down to like 35 degrees and it's raining like crazy. So I feel a little bit under the weather, but I'm going to push it through to you because as I promised, I have videos for you. So I do have 3 cases to go over, but just depending on how I'm feeling, we'll see if we can get through all of them today because they're pretty long. And I just want to say shout out to Young Riaz. Thank you so much for stopping by. I truly appreciate you. And shout out to M Mills. Thank you so much, sis. I truly appreciate you for stopping by. Appreciate it. Appreciate it as always. All right. So the first case that I have that I wanted to go over is I want to know what happened to Ruth Pine. So this is a case of Ruth Pine. She was unalive, and I really want to understand the story, what happened to her. So we're going to review this. This is a old case. So here we go. And just make sure you're hitting the like button when you're coming in. I truly appreciate it.
Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
There is an overabundance of true crime stories that begin with the notion that when a family appears to be happy, balanced, and hardworking, that they are in fact an inseparable, loving, and too often referred to as a perfect family. In reality, the concept of the so-called perfect family is frequently just a fallacy mistaken by strangers, neighbors, and close friends when a family is naturally able to keep up a polished image well out in public. Humans are imperfect by nature, so these perceptions are often dismantled over time due to private issues that may become public. Things like child abuse, escalating disagreements, medical conditions, infidelity, or financial gain, as can be seen in another video on this channel, are just a handful of the many possible reasons for this. During the course of this video's 42-minute running time, we are going to attempt to meticulously analyze the details surrounding the May 2011 murder of 51-year-old Ruth Pine in her own home. And, unironically, this is another case that begins with the ever-mentioned perfect family. On the outskirts of Detroit.
So I wanted to stop there because what the video essayist said is very important. We really need to get this out of our mind that people have this perfect family and this perfect type of lifestyle. They have everything you want. You're looking from the outside in and you're using limericks. You perceive people for being this everything that you want and everything that how everything plays out. And that is truly not what anybody's relationship nor their family structure is about. There's a lot of other things that can be in there that we don't know, right? And I think that is very harmful because that also stops people when they're having difficult times in their families or the relations that they're in. It gives them a hard time to actually open up and speak out because they feel that they have to keep up the persona that everybody believes that they are, right? They're more they have to keep the validation that people put them in, and they feel confined to that, whatever that is, right? And then they won't open up and tell you what's really going on, tell you what's really happening to them or how they really feel. One of the reasons is a part of it, like the reason for infidelity now being on the rise and being high, right? There's so many people who didn't feel like they was open enough to share to their significant others that they might have a sex problem, right? And that they might need to go see therapy for that or other extra things. So I'm in total agreement with that. I think as a society, we put too much pressure on people to show us what is this superficial, unrealistic, perfect family, perfect union, perfect children. We do that too much. And then once these people show us that they're human, we either discard them, we give some grace, we discard others, and we put too much pressure on them. And it's more than enough pressure just being a human alone. So let's go on with what else they have to tell us about Ruth Pine.
Michigan, in a family-friendly area known as Highland Township, lived a Christian family of 4 known as the Pine family. The Pine family consisted of automotive engineer Bernie Pine, his wife Ruth Pine, their son Jeffrey Pine, and young daughter Julia Pine. Bernie and Ruth had met when the two were in high school, and initially Ruth had zero interest in Bernie, but Bernie persisted, and just 11 months after their first date, Bernie and Ruth then tied the knot and went on to have their 2 children together. Their son Jeffrey was born in 1989, and daughter Julia was born about a decade later in 2001. At the age of 21, Jeffrey had just recently graduated from the Highland Christian Academy, and during his years at the high school, he was a very popular and well-liked student who was regularly at the top of his class. Jeffrey would excel on the high school basketball team, and Jeffrey was studying pre-med with the hopes to pursue a career in the medical industry, and eventually received an offer to enter the honors program at the University of Michigan Flint campus. Jeff's little sister Julia was only 10 years old, and she already had garnered a reputation among her teachers and other parents as a bright and friendly young lady who was a very talented ballerina with a promising future. On the outside, the Pine family appeared to encapsulate nearly every ingredient in the perfect family formula. So, what exactly happened behind the scenes that may have led up to this seemingly pointless murder? Throughout the marriage, Ruth began to suffer from several mental health issues. She would find herself excessively energetic and unable to sleep for several days, followed by several days of severe fatigue and intense sadness. These issues continued to worsen until they began to cause serious strain on the marriage, and then Bernie would plead with Ruth to visit a doctor. Eventually, with the help of her husband, Ruth sought out treatment and was diagnosed with depression and bipolar disorder with psychotic features. So she was then prescribed multiple medications to help control these issues. Unfortunately, Ruth would only take her medication as prescribed for a short period of time before making the decision to stop, as she believed that all medication was a form of sorcery and she was not going to take it. Sadly, these mental issues spanned over 2 decades and only continued downhill due to Ruth's resistance to her treatment. And in 2010, during another phase of rejecting treatment, Ruth would suffer a severe psychotic break. During another serious conversation regarding medication between Bernie and Ruth, Jeff entered the room and Ruth immediately attacked him. Ruth then grabbed Jeff by the neck and began to strike him repeatedly, while Jeff refused to fight back and covered his face from Ruth. Luckily, Bernie was in the room and was able to pull Ruth from Jeff fairly quickly, and then call 911. Due to the severity of this incident, Ruth was then arrested and held for evaluation until a judge could be seen regarding her release.
I'd call Bernard Pine to the stand.
I don't want her to have to take medicine either, but it just seems like when she doesn't, all kinds of bad things happen.
Ruth would then spend just over 3 weeks in jail before being released to a hospital for further care. While at the hospital, one of the doctors overseeing Ruth made the statement, "She is likely to deteriorate severely and become a danger to herself and others, due to her refusal to accept treatment for her very serious mental illness." She would then be released back to her family under the promise that she'd get back on her medication. Once released, Ruth then quickly returned to her way of rejecting medication and things became unstable at home once again.
Now, usually there's 2 reasons why people don't want to take their medication, especially if they describe something when it comes down to mental illness. And one of the reasons is they they feel like people are looking at them weird. They don't feel like they're normal anymore. Hey Bruce, how you doing? Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. I hope you're having a great day. Hey Omni, what's going on, bro? Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Hope everything's going well. Yeah, so 2 reasons why they don't want to take medication. They hate the looks, and everybody knows that they're on medication. They start to not feel normal. They start to not feel like they don't belong, and that's why they'll stop taking it. And number 2, whatever those medications they're giving them, they could have side effects where they don't feel like themselves. From what I have heard, some people who have been on those type of medications, they feel like watching they're watching themselves live their life. They're not involved in it. They seem like they're looking at their wife, or they're looking at their life like they're watching television. That's how they feel. And they start to feel really empty inside. Like because the medication makes them very calm, very calm, kind of in like a daze, really, and they don't like that feeling. So those are usually the 2 reasons that I hear that people don't like to take those psychiatric medicines, right? But obviously we see that she didn't like it. She started to wean off her it again, and she started having her manic attacks again. So that put a real strain on the family, and on, I know it put a strain on her husband. And it seemed that her husband really does love her. And, even when he knows that she's going through this, he wasn't trying to like have her locked up or anything of that sort. He wants her home with them and he wants her to work it out. But it's hard if, the person, if they're going through something, they're not really seeing why, they need to compromise with you a little bit about it, right? So it's hard. It's a very hard thing for the family. I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, my day is going good. I'm a little under the weather, but my day is going good. Let's see. M. Mills says, I have a family member that is bipolar, and she has stayed in and out of jail for years due to refusing to stay on her medicine. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Oh, you think I have a big face? All right. Well, I guess. Thanks. Let's go on.
Now, Ruth believing that there is recording devices hidden throughout the home and that there were tracking devices in her bloodstream. Several months went by until the end of 2010, when Bernie eventually began to have an affair. This went on for a few months before Bernie decided that enough is enough. And in February of 2011, Bernie then approached Ruth and advised her that he will be seeking a divorce if she continues to refuse medication. Ruth took this very seriously and told Bernie that she will get on her medication again and stick to it, as the family means everything to her. Bernie agreed, and the relationship continued. Ruth seemed to take her medication as prescribed, and the entire family appeared to be on the upswing. Well, they at very least appeared that way.
I've been well. Thanks for asking.
On the afternoon of May 27th, 2011, Bernie and his daughter Julia arrived at home around 2:30 p.m. They pull into the driveway, and Bernie attempts to open the garage door, which strangely appears to be stuck or not working. Bernie and Julia then decide to walk around to the back of the house to try and enter the garage through a separate door. As they walk around the corner, they can see that the back garage door appears to be left open. Bernie then notices Ruth's hand underneath the door in a strange position and pulls Julia back away from the door. Bernie then enters the garage himself and finds Ruth laying in a puddle of blood in the corner of the garage. He's able to quickly determine that Ruth is likely deceased. Bernie then immediately dials 911.
911, where's your emergency? My wife, she's laying in the garage. There's blood everywhere. I can't. I don't know what's going on.
Officers are quickly dispatched to the Pine household and arrive on the scene around 2:50 p.m. An investigation immediately begins. Investigators find that Ruth had been brutally beaten and stabbed to death. And, after quickly speaking with Bernie, investigators established that a 2x4 piece of wood was missing from the garage. Examiners then determined that the wood was likely what was used to strike Ruth 17 or more times, resulting in a cracked skull. The size and shape of the wounds appeared to match the 2x4, and Ruth was also found to have traces of wood on her arms and hands. Examiners were also able to establish that Ruth had been stabbed 16 times in the side of her neck. Despite a large amount of blood surrounding Ruth in the garage, the rest of the house appeared to be surprisingly clean. There was no items of value missing or stolen, and there were zero signs of a forced entry. The only other evidence in the home was a trace amount of Ruth's blood found on the tap of one of the sinks, which is presumed to be from somebody washing their hands. So, with a lack of a forced entry, and virtually any physical evidence at all, investigators began to wonder who may have had access to the home at the time that the murder had happened, and began to question Bernie and Jeff. Bernie would go on to explain his wife's mental instability due to her.
So obviously, this is someone who had access to the home, because they said that there was no forced entry. There's no sign of forced entry. Someone used the sink, so that means someone knew their way around. The manner that she had lost her life is very personal, right? You stab someone 16 times in their neck, and then you bludgeon them with a pipe in their head about 2 times. It seems a little bit more anger than self-defense, because my whole head was going to, if it wasn't the husband who did it, I was thinking that it was the son. And here was me initially trying to give the son grace, thinking that he probably did it to as self-defense, because his mom is suffering from manic depression, and she has a couple of episodes where she's violent, as what happened with the father a couple months ago, where she was strangling the father, and he didn't decide to fight her back. He just let her hit him and try to strangle him. So I was trying to give the benefit of the doubt that, it was a self-defense situation, but the way how she lost her life, that doesn't seem like self-defense for me. But let's go on, since obviously right now the son and the father is the prime suspects.
For a choice to resist taking medication, and how it has impacted their marriage. He would also go on to explain that Ruth would sometimes even sleep with knives in the bed because of her constant paranoia, and that she had a tendency to become physical if she refrained from taking her medication. The investigators started to put even more pressure on Bernie after he admitted to having an affair within the 6 months leading up to the murder. Fortunately for Bernie, he offered a solid alibi which was quickly corroborated by the police. Bernie was found on a video recording at a local restaurant celebrating a co-worker's retirement on the afternoon of May 27th. After almost immediately ruling out Bernie as a suspect, investigators then turned their focus onto Ruth and Bernie's son, Jeffrey. They had already determined a brief timeline for Ruth and Jeff that day, stating that Ruth had gone shopping in the morning and was caught on surveillance leaving the store and heading home around 11 a.m. And Jeff was actually at the house that morning, only leaving around 1:30 p.m. to head into work, which would mean that there was about a 2.5-hour window where Jeff and Ruth would be alone at the house. Since Ruth was found by Bernie at almost exactly 2:30 p.m. that day, this only left about an hour between the moment that Jeff had left the house and the moment that Ruth was found. So, just hours after Bernie found Ruth murdered. Investigators then bring Jeff Pine in for questioning. Bernie had already let Jeff know that his mom had passed, but Jeff was unaware that she was murdered.
Okay. Jeff, my name is Hendrick. I'm with the Sheriff's Department. Hendrick. Glover. Glad to meet you. We won't take too much of your time. Okay. We just got a couple questions for you. Okay. Like we explained to your dad and your sister, our goal here is to figure out what happened. Okay. Strictly figure out what happened, and we can move on from there. Okay. You're not under arrest or anything like that. Okay. How old are you? 21. 21? Yeah. Is your name Jeff or Jeffrey?
Either.
Which do you go by?
Usually Jeff.
Jeff? Okay. All right, I'll call you Jeff. What's your middle name, Jeff?
Bernard.
Bernard. And your date of birth?
December 22nd, 89.
89. Okay. You live at the house there?
Yes.
Okay.
I've lived my whole life.
Okay, I was going to say, have you lived there a long time? Or?
Yeah, that's the only place I've ever lived.
Okay. Do you work?
Yes.
Where do you work?
Spice Orchards.
Oh, on Clyde Road?
Clyde and 23, yeah.
Okay. What do you do there?
Just about everything. I've been there since I was 16. I'm there on the...
Just in case y'all, I want to make sure that we're still covering tactics. The tactic that the detective is using right now is trying to establish a repertoire with Jeff, kind of little buddy, getting to know him. You lead with that when you think that this person might be a little bit more open, if they feel like y'all are connecting in some ways and you're asking things about them. That's literally what's happening right now. And also to get a understanding of his day-to-day activities and what he's interested in, stuff like that. That's what he's trying to establish with the suspect before he start asking impertinent questions in regards of the unaliving of his mother. So let's go on.
Official winemaker, make cider, I work the register, pretty much anything they need me.
Yeah.
Jeff continued to answer questions regarding his employment at Spicer Orchards. He then went on to provide officers with a new piece of crucial timeline information.
I understand you work today?
Yes, I went at 3.
At 3, okay. Is that the only place you work? Or you work other places?
That's the only place that I'm employed right now. I also work for a lady who lives a few miles down the road from me. I do yard work, and I'm repainting her basement for her. I worked for her for probably about 4 years.
What's her name?
Diane Needham.
Diane Needham?
She used to be my teacher
Oh, okay.
in high school. So,
When was the last time you worked for her?
I was just there today.
Today?
Yeah.
According to Jeff, the reason that Jeff had actually left home around 1:30 that day was to plant 5 lilacs on the neighbor's side lawn before heading into work for 3 p.m. Jeff stated that he completed the work alone but was expecting that Diane be home when he stopped by. Police take note of this new information, and the tone of the interrogation then begins to change.
Jeff, See, you have no idea how your mom died or anything.
No.
Okay. Your mom was murdered. Someone killed your mom. Okay, it's not an accident. We need to get to the bottom of it. Okay? So if there's anything else that you know about that you've been holding back, that you're afraid to tell us, now's the time. Okay?
I don't know what.
So they're giving him a chance to see whether or not if he's going to really tell the truth. They know his mom's medical history. They know that she is a violent person when she's not on her medication. So that's why they're asking him to give his take on anything if he wants to tell the truth. But at this point, you literally came into the detective or the interrogation room and you have literally bandages over your hands. Now, I know that you said that you was landscaping, but this is something that you said that you do as a part-time job. So obviously you don't get you're not going to be hurting yourself that often. You have literally both hands wrapped, as in you have cuts and bruises, and hopefully they do their due diligence and they want to take photos of his bruises on his hands, try to get DNA, see if his mom DNA is on it. But it is a telltale sign when you come in there and, and your mom is unalive and she been stabbed and all the stuff like that, and here you are having your hands wrapped. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Hey Lana, how you doing? Good to see you. I hope everything is well, sweetheart. Yes, exactly. Landscaping doesn't do that to your hands. Exactly. That's why I was trying to state. And even if you were like a newbie in landscaping, what he was doing, he was literally planting trees and small bushes on the land. So you weren't doing anything where you was actually using something sharp. You're just implanting something into the landscape. So we'll see. We'll see.
Tell you, because we don't know if anyone who would want to hurt her.
Investigators found Jeff's emotionless and delayed response to this information highly suspicious, as it is more common for a suspect to have a frantic response to finding out that their biological mother had been harmed in any way, especially if they
Hey
are
Lord,
innocent.
how are you doing? Thank you for stopping by. I hope everything's well.
Someone killed your mom.
Officers also felt that Jeff was acting strangely non-defensive to the accusatory questions regarding his possible involvement in his mother's murder.
Did you have any altercation with your mom today?
No.
No type of fight, no type of argument, anything?
I didn't raise her. We didn't even argue today.
You say that you left at 1:30. Can anybody verify that you left at 1:30? How can we verify that?
I don't know.
Are those scratches on your forearm too?
These, yeah. I get scratched up a lot from work. This was a go get out of the pen, and we had to catch him. And I'll go. Yeah, we have a petting farm.
Yeah, now Sophia says I can stand on his palms, but I generally think it's his knuckles that are hurt. Yeah, I agree with that too. And I just want to just make note that what the detective said is kind of right. You just told this man that his mother, this is not his stepmom, this is not an aunt, this is your biological mother that you said that you had no problems with, everything was fine and great. You just told him, excuse me, that she's no longer living and that it wasn't an accident, it was a murder. And he does not seem shocked. He doesn't seem disturbed. He's not showing any emotions that you would normally get from a child who who loves their parent, right? And I get people grieve differently. Not everybody's going to be sitting up there wailing on the floor and talk about, Lord, take me now. Not everybody do that. But there's a reason why it's being pointed out, because I would be distraught if anything happened to my mother. I would be completely distraught. I don't even think I would be able to function, nor would I even be able to speak for a quite some time if something was to happen to my mother and it was explained to me what actually happened to my mother. I I don't know. But let's see. Bruce says, I bet the wounds on his hands are from his bloody hands sliding. Yeah, I believe so. And they are just now showing, he was just showing them that he has scratches on his arms. And he said that, oh yeah, I usually get scratched up for work, right? But they're gonna test that anyway. They're gonna test all that anyway to see if it's true. Because if that's the case, you should not have none of your mother's DNA on you if you was at work and if you was landscaping. It just is what it is. Let's go on.
Your mom is a stay-at-home mom. From information we've gathered, does not have a bunch of friends. She doesn't have any enemies. Why would somebody pick your home in a very short time period and harm your mom?
I don't know.
Jeff, I want to ask you a tough question here today.
Okay.
Did you do anything today at all to hurt your mom?
No.
In any way, shape, or form?
Nothing.
Did you have any arguments with your mom today?
I didn't say anything hurtful to her. I did nothing.
I want to make note of two things. Number one, he's not looking at any of the detectives' face. There's two detectives in the room. He's not even looking at any of them when they're asking him these questions. He's not looking at him. He's looking at a spot on the wall that is in his peripherals, and that is it. But he's not actually looking at them when he's answering this question. And then on top of that, I want to make note from the time where the mom lost her life. She lost her life in the afternoon. Like, who would be that bold to unalive this woman in a neighborhood that everybody know of? Everybody thought that it was the picture perfect family. Who would be that bold to unalive this woman in the afternoon? The way that it did, the way that it happened. And it was towards like the back room or the basement, that area. There's a lot of things. Bruce says Sophia says they should check her fingernails because from her scratching him. Yes, I believe that they are going to do that. The coroner should do a detail, look at her bodies and her remain to see what was going on with her before they actually put out the report. Because as of right now, what I'm thinking is what actually unalived her wasn't even the stabbing that she had to her neck. They said there was the blunt force trauma of her being hit in her head more than 2 times with the pipe. So, yeah. Terrible, man. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Whew. Let's go on.
Finally, officers felt suspicious about the wounds found on both of Jeff's hands between the thumbs and index fingers.
What's wrong with your hands?
This was from work today. I was flipping over a pallet on my way to check the bathrooms, and as I was flipping over, my hand got caught in there and just tore off the skin.
Can I see it? I mean, can you undo that?
I can pull it back a little bit. You can see it just rip the skin right off.
Let me see. I want to.
Yeah. So
It's painful.
It kind of stings when you push on it. I'm just trying to keep it covered up. So
It almost looks like a blister.
It just tore the skin right off. There was like skin hanging on it, and I just like peeled it off. Washed my hands, put some alcohol swab on it.
I understand, bro.
I mean, I've moved a lot of pallets before, and I've never, where the wood grabs you, you might get a slip or something, but I've never had an injury from a pallet like that.
I was tossing it on there, my hand got caught, and I just pulled back.
Okay, was anybody else there helping you move those pallets at all?
No, I was on my way to the bathroom.
Wait, you can keep telling them what.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just had my hands, and they have slots.
Right.
I just put it in the space to pick it up.
Good.
And went to throw it on top there, and my hands just got caught. And I just pulled them out as quick as I could, and it just...
Did it pull the skin off of your hand?
Yeah, it tore it up. And
did it pull, all the skin that's off of your hand, or did it pull that skin off of your hand?
Yeah. And then there was some tags, and I just pulled the tags off.
Yeah, he's most definitely super lying, because pallets don't do that to your hand. The way how his skin is ripped off, pallets don't do that. And not even within the area that he has it. He has it between here, that his skin is ripped off, and even here. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, at this point, he's trying to make the detectives believe what he's saying. Let's go on.
Okay.
These observations set off some serious red flags, and law enforcement then became even more focused on Jeff. So, investigators did a quick examination for any other injuries on Jeff's body and found none. They then asked for his clothing and his vehicle to do further testing and sent him on his way. While the lab processed Jeff's clothing and vehicle, investigators decided to further corroborate Jeff's movements on the afternoon of the murder. And while doing so, they encountered some evidence that at first glance appeared to help Jeff.
Hey, Mrs. Liam, it's Jeffrey. I've been over to your house a few times since I thought you were coming home. I was just over there for about an hour or so, just kind of sweeping up, kind of checking things out. I was actually hoping you'd be there.
This voicemail was found in the mailbox of the neighbor, which Jeff claimed to have visited on the afternoon of the 27th. The message was left just after 2 p.m. Unfortunately for Jeff, the neighbor also spoke to the police and advised them that the lilac plants were actually planted by Jeff just 7 days earlier, on May the 20th. The neighbor also stated that they believed that this voicemail was Jeff's attempt to establish an alibi for the afternoon of May 27th. Despite the lab results showing that Jeff's clothing as well as his vehicle were both completely clean, 21-year-old Jeffrey Pine was arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of his mother, Ruth Pine. Due to the excessive amount of circumstantial evidence combined with the lack of any physical evidence, the state employed a very talented prosecutor with a history of very difficult convictions under his belt. The prosecutor that the state employed was attorney John Skurzinski. Jeff went on to hire a defense attorney by the name of James Champion, who unfortunately had a lack of experience defending clients who were accused of murder. However, James Champion felt confident that Jeff was innocent and that the state lacked any significant evidence or ability to convict him. And so, Jeff's trial began about a year after the murder, in mid-2012.
The high school valedictorian accused of killing his own mother, the young man so popular in his hometown that the judge actually had trouble impaneling an impartial jury. ABC's John Mueller has been on this case all week. John, good morning.
Good morning, Dan. He is a beloved figure in his community, a former star athlete, student, all-around good guy. His mother had a violent, dark side. Jeffrey Pine says he didn't kill her. His surviving family says he didn't do it. But yesterday, prosecutors began making their case.
People may proceed to opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. The crime of murder has certain ingredients, or what we call elements. And in order to prove the crime of first-degree premeditated murder, I, as the prosecutor, have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt.
The gist of the prosecution's argument was that 21-year-old Jeffrey Pine brutally murdered his mother with a 3-foot-long 2x4 piece of wood in the garage of his lifelong family home, cracking her skull, breaking multiple fingers, and then stabbing her in the neck 16 times. Jeff then effectively cleaned his body, his clothing, and disposed of the murder weapon before heading into work and leaving Ruth's body to be discovered by his father or 10-year-old sister. Jeff then drove past Diane Needham's home and decided to call and leave a voicemail to establish an alibi before finally arriving at his workplace, Spicer Orchards. The motive for the murder was the primary focus during their opening statement.
When the police came, there was no evidence of a break-in.
So the only problem with this is that, and I know where the prosecutors is going, but the only problem with this is, and this is where the defense is going to get the prosecutors on it, you still haven't really established the motive behind it. What it was the motive of him unaliving his mom, right? she had mental issues. This is something that they found out within a year. And the husband was the one who was being initially attacked when she went through her mood swings, not being on the medication. So even then, the motive that I can only see him doing this is self-defense, right? His mom came at him crazy. He had no choice and he hit her. But then again, like I said, the self-defense went out the window with the 16 stabs to the neck, right? That became very, very personal at that point. But now they have to really just like, where is the motive? Outside of that, what else would he gain for unaliving his mom? Is it to make his father's life easier because his father was thinking about probably divorcing the mom? He didn't no longer want to deal with her illness anymore. He found someone new. I haven't heard that be established yet, what his real motive is. And I think that the prosecutors would have a hard time with that part, right? Because everything else, opportunity and means, was there. He went into work late. He already planted the bushes that he needed to plant for the lady's house. He did that 7 days prior. He only had to do was just make a phone call, and everything was within an hour, right? Even before the husband found the mom unalive. So means and opportunity has definitely been established. I have not heard of the motive, and also I have not heard anything about them finding his DNA under her nails or on his hands. So we'll see how the prosecutors continue to play this out. But we definitely know that the defense is going to harp on the fact that you don't really have any concrete evidence because he was found clean. His clothes was found clean. So here we go.
There was no evidence of anything going on. As a matter of fact, Ruth's husband, Bernie, took an inventory of the whole house. There was nothing gone. Her purse was wide open on the dining room table. Nothing gone. Except he thought a 2x4 in an obscure portion of the garage was missing.
I miss Caitlin.
Ruth was not sexually assaulted. None of the windows were broken, none of the doors. As a matter of fact, the front door was deadlocked from the inside, deadbolted. Later, when the police talked to Jeffrey Pine, he lied. He lied about where he was. He lied about what he was doing. He lied about how he got the blisters. Now, the evidence that's presented will be that, and it'll be much more, too. There'll be much more. And like I said, it's going to be like a mosaic, a puzzle. And when that puzzle all comes in, and when you've had an opportunity to hear it all and to discuss it in the jury room and hear it arranged, you're going to see that what it forms is the picture of a man, Jeffrey Pine, committing a first-degree premeditated murder. This was an angry, angry killing. It was the result of years and years and years of things that had built up living with a difficult person who was bipolar.
Although there was a lack of physical evidence tying the defendant to his mother's death, the prosecution would go on to use the little evidence that they had to attempt to secure a conviction. The prosecution would go on to paint a picture of a corrupt household where Ruth would abuse and assault Jeffrey on a regular basis, citing multiple instances where Ruth had physically slapped or hit Jeffrey during a subtle disagreement. They would then state that Jeff was very protective of his 10-year-old sister Julia, and that Jeff murdered Ruth as a way to protect his sister from his unstable mother's abuse. The prosecution would bring in several officers and paramedics to testify about their involvement in the case and their observations on the afternoon of May 27th. After establishing a timeline of events for the afternoon of May 27th, the prosecution then shifted its focus onto poking holes in Jeff's story. Their first move was to bring in a former friend and co-worker of Jeff's named Nicholas Breddy.
Could you state your name, please, sir, and spell your last name for the record?
Nicholas Gregory Breddy, B-R-E-T-T-I.
I do want to say that it is a possibility, what you're saying, and Mills, that he could have inherited her mental illness, and it just probably like snapped in after seeing her go through her mental, relapse and stuff like that. That is a possibility. That is a possibility. But I agree with Bruce. Like, he really still don't have no emotion at all. But my only thing is, if the prosecutor, I'm not sure, but did they say that the prosecutor is trying to say that he was trying to defend his daughter, or that was the defense attorney? I don't want to rewind, but I think most likely I'm going to bank that it's the defense attorney that is saying that anything that he did was just to protect his sister from the same fate that he was enduring while he was younger and he couldn't defend himself, which is a hard pill to swallow because, again, this is a family that was well known in their community. He was a star athlete. His mom was well known. The father was well known. So this is the perfect family. And then now to say that this perfect family is this child was being abused, that can destroy a community, right? It could definitely destroy a community. But now they're about to hear from one of his friends. Let's see what he says.
How old are you, sir?
20 years old.
Do you know Jeffrey Pine?
Yes.
Is he in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Would you identify him, please, and tell us what he's wearing?
That is Jeff, and he's wearing a suit.
Okay. Is he sitting at between two people there?
Yes.
Okay. Will the record indicate the witness identified the defendant, Mr. Pine?
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you.
May.
How did you know Jeff Pine?
We were friends from work.
Where do you work?
Spicer Orchards.
When did you start working there?
September 3 years ago.
3 years ago?
So I think I started working end of 2009.
When did was Jeff working there as well?
Yes.
When did he start working there?
6 to 5 years before me.
What is it?
5 to 6 years before me.
Okay. So you knew him as of May the 27th of 2011, you'd known him for 3 years?
September.
Pardon?
As of September, yes.
Okay. By the way, do you have a nickname?
Woody.
Woody, okay. Do you handle pallets and boxes often, wooden pallets and boxes?
Yes.
A lot?
Yes.
Have you ever injured your hands doing that?
I smashed my finger between a box before, yes.
Mm-hmm. You get slivers ever?
Every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Not very often.
Let me just show you. They've been marked as exhibits numbers 14, 15, proposed exhibits 14, 15, and 16. I just want to show you these. And ask you if you have ever had injuries like this from lifting a pallet or working with a pallet.
No.
Ever?
No.
Would you recognize that as being an injury that you've ever seen anybody with from a pallet?
No.
Did you know whether he had a girlfriend?
Yes.
He did?
He did.
And do you know what her name is?
Holly. Holly Freeman.
Holly Freeman?
Yes.
Okay. How long had he been going with Holly?
Quite some time, a few years.
Did he ever talk to you about his feelings toward Holly?
Yes.
What did the defendant say?
He loved her.
He loved her?
Yes.
Okay. Did they ever talk about marriage or anything?
I believe they had talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Never got that far.
It never got that far?
They were in the process of, she didn't want to move in yet. He wanted her to move in with him. They wanted to get their own place.
Did you ever become aware of any time where there was any kind of a problem between Holly and the defendant?
Yes.
Do you recall, was that around March of 2011?
Yes.
Perhaps one of the more damning testimonies at the trial would be the one provided by Jeff's recent ex-girlfriend, Holly Freeman.
Good morning. Good morning. Would you state your name, please, and spell your last name?
Holly Freeman, Freeman.
you know a person by...
This is gonna be serious. I'm looking forward to listening to what she have to say, but I guess they're going to question her because they want to know what happened within their relationship while they're no longer with each other, his behavior, character with her, and on top of it, have he ever discussed any grievances he had about in reference to his mother? That's what they're going to establish with this. So let's see what they have to say. Yes, and it is 118 people here. Please, if you could, can you at least get me to 100 likes? I would truly appreciate it. It definitely helps the channel. It helps me put me back in the algorithm. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. Ed Mills said, the father really did his children injustice keeping them in that environment. I understand. Yeah, I mean, in a way, yes, but I understand why he wanted to give it a shot, right? Because he wanted his family. He loved her. She said that she would stay on on her medication because she didn't act like that on her medication. So I understand why he took a shot. And we do take chances with our loved ones, and that's the reason why he did it. I'm not gonna really try to hold him that much because I don't think him or the children expected that from him, right? Let's see. Bruce said women do that to men. It's not easy for a man to destroy his family. Come on, Bruce. Always, Bruce, always.
Time of Jeffrey Pine.
I do.
Is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, he's sitting right there.
We'll stipulate to an ID, Your Honor.
I'll accept the stipulation.
Record may reflect the stip.
How do you know Mr. Pine?
He was my boyfriend.
And when did you start, the two of you start a relationship?
Fall of 2008.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, beautiful.
When you
We
began
appreciate
your
it,
relationship,
Diana.
I mean, can you describe the relationship? Help us to understand what kind of a relationship you had with him.
We were exclusive. It was a serious relationship.
When you say serious, what do you mean?
Well, after we had been together for almost 2 years, and
I agree.
we had talked about marriage and
I'm a mama
kids.
cup like that.
Yeah, marriage and kids?
Yes.
Are the two of you involved in a relationship any longer?
No.
Okay. I want to point out to you the time of year of about March of 2011. Do you recall that period of time?
Yes.
Okay. Sort of maybe the end of March of 2011? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Can you tell the jury what happened at that time?
I'm sorry, Jeff had told me sorry.
Hey, Hunter, how are you? Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs.
Jeff had told me.
Would you like some water? Do you need water?
I'm fine.
Okay.
He had told me that he was going to Grand Rapids with his boss at the time. Well, he had cheated on me.
All right.
Objection, Your Honor. That just bootstrapped it back to the same question.
I'm sorry. What's the objection?
The objection is relevance and character.
Overruled.
Thank you. He had cheated on you.
Yes.
Did your attitude toward him change?
Yes.
And how so?
Everyone was.
Well, I'm just asking you for yours.
I'm sorry. I was completely thrown off.
In what way?
Because Jeff, to me, Jeff was the perfect guy, the perfect son, the perfect boyfriend. And that was a the first time ever that I had ever had a reason to doubt him. I
agree. He looked at her crazy.
I trusted him wholeheartedly. I never had a reason not to. And that was the first time that I couldn't, or felt that I couldn't anymore.
And that was as a result of his cheating?
Yes.
And any other particular aspect of that caused you to feel like that you didn't know him or you couldn't trust him? Or that you doubted him?
Because he lied so effortlessly to me, to my family, to my friends. He had a whole elaborate story to cover his tracks, and the fact that he could just look into my face and my mom's face and everybody. And I know that some people may think that that's not a big deal, that guys cheat on their girlfriends all the time, but if you knew Jeff and you knew his character and what a good person he was, you couldn't even fathom the fact that he could do something like that. And nobody could.
All right. And this was the first time you...
So I know a lot of people are feeling tension. We got M Mills and we got Hunter. They in here. They rooting for they're rooting for Jeff. They're not buying this. They're not buying the cheating thing. But you got to understand the approach of the prosecutors. Remember, they don't have that much evidence to confirm whether or not he unalived his mom. But what the prosecutors is trying to establish is whether it's his character. Do he have the ability to lie? Do he have the ability to be mischievous? Do he have, that's why they brought her in as a character witness. So this is what they're doing now, right? They're establishing, hey, this is a person who said that he was, honest, he was in love, he wanted to marry her and stuff like that, but then he was caught cheating and lying to her family members, lying to their friends. So that's what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to establish his character from her perspective. That's what makes her a witness character. So that's what they're using, okay? I know you don't have to agree with it. I understand. I get it. Whether he's a cheater or not is not necessarily relevant to say that he's a murderer, but they have to use whatever they have in their toolbox. It's just the nature of the game, okay? All right, let's move on.
You'd seen anything like that?
Ever.
And that altered the relationship?
Yes.
Okay. After that, what happened to your relationship?
I didn't speak to him for close to a month.
Okay. I want to point out now the date of May the 27th of 2011. You recall that date?
Yes.
Did you have any contact with Mr. Pine that day?
He texted me at 11. It was either 11:40 or 11:50 a.m. and it said, "I love you."
That was it?
Yes.
Okay. Between 11:40 and 11:50 a.m. on Friday, May 27th?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any other or do you have any other contact with him on that day?
Not until the night. Technically, it would have been the morning of the 28th.
May the 28th?
Yes.
And about what time?
2:30 in the morning.
And what was that?
I had gotten a phone call from an unknown number.
Oh, Hunter, don't be like that.
And it was Jeff on his aunt's phone.
He was calling from his aunt's house?
Yes. I don't know if he was, yes, he told me he was at her house.
What did he tell you?
He said, I just want you to know that I'm okay, and Julia's okay, and my dad's okay. And I said, okay. And he said, my mom is dead.
He just said it like that?
Just like that.
He said, I'm okay, Julia's okay, my dad's okay, my mom is dead?
Well, he paused, and he said, my mom is dead.
Just in that way?
Just in that way.
And for the record, can you describe, the way he said that? Can you characterize it? Did he use any expression?
He was not crying. He was calm.
Holly's testimony, though biased due to a recent breakup, was likely an effective move for the prosecution. Prosecutors would then follow Holly's testimony by having Jeff's neighbor Diane Needham testify regarding Jeff's alibi, and more specifically the voicemail that Jeff had left on her answering machine. Despite describing Jeff as a respectful and responsible young man, Diane would also reiterate her previous claims, stating that the 5 lilacs that Jeff claimed to plant on the 27th were in fact planted just 7 days before, on May the 20th, and that she felt that his voicemail was likely an attempt to cover his tracks. The prosecution finished up their round of testimonies by bringing in 2 experts to speak about the injuries found on Ruth's body, as well as the injuries found on Jeff's hands.
Good afternoon, Doctor. Would you state your name, please, and spell your last name?
Ruben Ortiz Reyes.
What is your occupation, sir?
I am a forensic pathologist.
All right. You also are a medical doctor?
Yes.
Dr. Reyes would go on to explain the amount of injuries on Ruth's body and the location of each injury. He would explain that a 2x4 piece of wood would accurately match the injuries he observed, and he would break down the way that he believed Ruth was stricken during each injury. When asked what he believed the injuries could explain about the attacker, Dr. Reyes pointed out that he believed that Ruth was a victim of an emotional attack, due to the injuries being consistent with something known as overkilling. Basically, nearly every...
Right, that's why I explained earlier that they didn't even go to the self-defense situation with him, because whatever happened to that mom, that was overkill. You stabbing someone 16 times in the neck, that's very personal. She was already dead by hitting her with the plywood in her head twice. So to stab her, you was stabbing her when she was literally already dead. So that shows that you had a lot of anger towards this person, which shows it was a very emotional situation. But let's go on. That's sad.
Every injury found on Ruth's body was a defensive wound, and the 17 stabs were excessive since the blunt force trauma would have likely caused death or coma on its own. The second expert was a medical examiner by the name of Lubisha Dragovich. Dr. Dragovich would go on to explain that the wounds found on Jeff's hands were entirely inconsistent with the story as told by Jeff. He would state that the size of the wounds and appearance of the wounds totally match with something known as a rope burn. Simply put, the wounds on Jeff's hands appeared to be from large blisters that had been picked open. Based on the symmetry of the wounds, Dr. Dragovich believed that these wounds happened simultaneously and likely from the same object, either being dragged or slipping between both hands repeatedly, while Jeff applied pressure, likely by squeezing. The defense went on to cross-examine several of the prosecution's witnesses, but not all, and the defense made the risky decision to refrain from calling a single person to testify. This is due to the fact that nearly all of the evidence and testimony provided by the prosecution was very circumstantial. There wasn't a single piece of physical evidence that directly linked Jeff to the crime, as there was no blood found on his clothing, no blood found in his car, a complete lack of a murder weapon, and no witness or recording of the crime. Defense attorney James Champion felt incredibly confident that the jury would see that Jeff was a respectful young man with no criminal history at all, and that the accusations being made were outlandish. James Champion felt certain that the jury would be unable to convict Jeff based on the overwhelming amount of reasonable doubt. Both attorneys closed out the trial by reiterating the case, and just before the jury would be sent to deliberation, prosecutor John Skurzinski filed one last motion. He proposed that the option for a verdict of second-degree murder be available for the jury in case they believed that Jeff committed the crime without any premeditation. The defense fought adamantly against this, as James Champion was afraid that the jury may choose this newly added option as a medium between
That was a smart move for the prosecutors. So just in case they want to make sure that they did not lose the case. So they did a compromise, and they gave the compromise to the jury. We can go down as low as second-degree murder. And he was, if you find that he is guilty in some things by lying, by doing that fake phone call to the neighbor saying that you was coming to put the bushes in her land, and you already did that 8 days prior. So that was a smart move for the prosecutors for them to save this case. Because if they didn't put that out, the defense, just because they didn't find anything with the clothes and everything, they would have wiped them. They would have wiped this whole thing clean. So that was a smart move. Very smart move for them.
In both extremes. After just 3 days of deliberation in December of 2012, the jury came back with a verdict.
Your Honor, now calling in the matter of the People versus Jeffrey Pine, case number 2011-238-692 FC.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is John Spinsky, the prosecutor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Michael Getzbringer on behalf of the people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. James Champion on behalf of the defendant, Jeffrey Pine.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. As I indicated this morning, the court received a note from the jury that indicated we have reached a verdict, and the court has possession of the jury's verdict in the sealed envelope. I'm going to be bringing the jury in momentarily and taking its verdict. Mr. Pine, sir, I'm going to ask that you please stand. Provide the jury foreperson with the verdict. As the foreperson for the jury in this case, I'd ask that you publish the verdict of the jury as reached in the case of People versus Jeffrey Pine.
Okay.
Okay, so Hunter, you are correct. He said, here's the thing that we all know nowadays, that the juries convict on emotion rather than events. But you got to understand, these juries are picked by the prosecutors and the defense. They specifically look for certain jurors that is going to feel more emotionally connected to their stance of the situation. That's why you have jury duty, right? And you pick to help fit who's going to help you get this case. They all do it. Everybody do it. That is what court is about. It's really not about who's right and wrong. It's about what can be proved from, that's what it's all about. Okay. So I agree, but yeah, it's not only just like the jury itself, like they're literally picked for a reason, right? Here we go.
In the People of the State of Michigan versus Jeffrey Pine, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder.
Would you like the jury polled, Mr. Champion?
I would, Your Honor.
This court sentences the defendant to 20 years to 60 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. He gets credit for 476
That is correct,
days. He is ordered to pay the crime victim rights fee of $130. He is assessed state cost of $68. It is also ordered that the defendant shall comply with DNA testing as an additional condition of his sentence. That is the sentence of this court.
I'd like to say that there's been no measure of justice served for my wife, for my son, or for my family. There's no evidence tying my son to this crime, and there's a good reason for that. He didn't do it.
And he maintains he's innocent.
He is innocent. People who are innocent don't say they're guilty. I want to say this, that he was convicted on a story that was based on hunches and speculation. Somewhere in the mix, the presumption of innocence and the definition of reasonable doubt was lost. I can't explain that. I know that, I know my son is a tender heart, and I'm telling you right now, he did not commit this crime. His mother's illness made him an easy target.
Jeffrey's family still stand behind his innocence to this day and have formed a relatively large community of supporters. Jeffrey Pine currently resides at the Ionia Correctional Facility in Ionia, Michigan.
So that was a very interesting case because I understand what the dad is saying, but that also goes with the situation of you not believing something because you don't believe that of that person. And when you believe that this is the character of this person, this is all that you know, it's really hard for you to actually look at the facts. Now, my biggest thing is, yes, they didn't find no actual blood on him or anything like that. Okay, he washed it off. They said that somebody went to the sink and was washing off blood, right? But if they was, I'm wondering if the neighbor even had cameras, or do they even have cameras on that side street of where the houses are? Because it could have obviously showed you whether or not did he go back home around the time where his mom lost his life. That could have just been the biggest evidence that they possibly needed. But I do understand where the father and the family is coming from. It was the character witnesses that helped seal the deal for him to get the second degree murder charge, right? Because we know if they would have continued went with first degree, that case would have been thrown out. There was nothing of motive to show that this was a first degree murder. So second degree was just a way for them to win the case. And that is what these prosecutors want to do. They want to win the case just as much as defense attorneys want to win the case. They don't care really if their client is guilty or not. They really don't care. They get paid the big bucks to make sure they get you off, right? It is what it is. That's how our court system goes. It is what it is. But just prayers to that woman, because like she had an illness. She didn't deserve that to happen to her. And I hope that I'm hoping that it's not the son, but truly I do believe it is the son. But it's sad for that family around, and it's definitely sad for that community because they had high hopes for that family. They held them with such regard, and to see a family that you idolize have like a murder case like this, and now it was seen like the son unalive the mom, and that it was actually could have been real abuse in the house the whole entire time. That can really destroy a family. It could destroy a community. It could destroy a church. Like, it really does impact everybody around you, and you don't know. So that was a very interesting case, and I was glad to listen to that with you guys. All right, let's see. There's a couple of things that people are saying, and I'm not ignoring your messages. Let's see. M. Mill said this could have all been avoided if his father would have removed the children. The daughter was probably having issues from this as well. Well, she's going to have a lot of issues now. I'll tell you that much, right? Bruce said if he was a tender heart, he would have shown some emotion towards his mom. I understand that. I mean, that was somewhat of what I said, but then I have to be fair. Not everybody grieved the same type of way. He could still be in shock. What was kind of concerning to me is that he told the girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend, that his mom died. He said everybody else is safe, and then he paused and said the mom died. I'm wondering, did he say that to her after he unalived his mom, or did he like right after, or what? Like, they never told when he actually said that to her, when he made that call. Was it the next following day after he sat down with the investigators? That's what I would want to know. Let's see. Hunter said, any chance you could do a Christopher Peralco murder that happened in Bethlehem, New York, back in, I want to say 2007. I'm from Hey, shout out from New York too. Yay, 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 yay. Shout out to you, Hunter. Yeah, I'm in New York. I'm not all the way up there in Albany, but I'm not that far from you. Really ain't. Okay, I'll look into that. You said Christopher? Okay, let me write that down. Let me write that down for a minute. If y'all have any other things that y'all want me to review, just put it in the chat for me and I will look it up. Okay? All right, we got New York in the house. Okay. Good to see my New Yorkers. Good to see my New Yorkers here. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Oh, hi. Hi, son. How you doing? Let's see. Sharon Letchford said Bundy's mom did say he's not capable of that. Only she believed he wasn't. Shocked when he came out with what he had done to save his ass, he began admitting the murders, as you probably know. Oh, yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. I agree. Okay, yep, no problem. I will definitely check out the Christopher Peralco, okay? I will. Let's see. Ah, yes, prayers, because as everyone knows, nothing fixes terrible situation quite like mumbling to yourself for a few seconds. Okay. And let's see. Yeah, it really is sad that this happened to the family. I agree. I do. It's a very sad case. Very sad case. He said, thank you so much for the interaction. I'm a huge true crime person. And that Peralco murder, he allegedly hacked his parents with, oh my God. Okay. All right. No problem. All right. Yeah, we'll look into that. Definitely. All right, guys. So the next case that I have for you good folks, and make sure you're hitting the like button for me. It's a husband discovers his wife evil secret days after he's dead. So I wanted to take a look at this and let's go on. Let's see. Here we go.
Just came and knocked on my door. When I went to the door, she's crying, and she says she thinks her husband is dead.
So there's a lot of stuff coming out. So why should we believe you, who's told us at least 2 or 3 sets of lies?
What about Mill?
Mill got killed last night.
Okay. Now you know you've done some robberies, so your name gets brought up. Did you do this?
No. Every conversation you have with Lou is recorded. We know about the planning. We know about the affair. And yet there's a possibility that if you did cooperate and provide a statement, you could not spend the rest of your life in prison and see your kids before you die.
It was just before 2 a.m. when a woman dressed only in a t-shirt, blood gushing from a cut on her head, started ringing the doorbell of her neighbor, desperate for help and in dire need of police.
911 location emergency. Yes, my name is Carl Fight. My next door neighbor just came and knocked on my door. When I went to the door, she's crying and she says she thinks her husband is dead. She says the guy broke into the house. He has a gun. She's got blood on her face where he hit her with the gun.
Wait a second. So was this a domestic?
No, this was another guy.
Another guy broke into the house?
Another guy broke into the house, correct? Not your husband, just, no.
Killed my husband.
She says the guy that broke into the house killed her husband.
Okay, all right. Where's the other guy at right now?
Where is the other guy out?
I just woke up with this all over, and now it's picked up.
Ah, 518.
I have no idea where the other guy is.
Okay,
now.
I'll tell you what, for your safety, just stay in the house and lock your door and keep her inside your house, okay?
Yes.
Join us as we look into a burglary gone wrong, a twisted tale that reached from the coast of North Carolina to Oregon and back again. What happened on that hot August night in Elizabeth City between a pawnbroker and a prowler? Before we begin, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Milton Sawyer Jr., a husband, father, stepfather, and local
No
businessman.
problem, Bruce.
Our story takes us to a small but historic town on the coast of North Carolina, just south of the big naval port of Norfolk, Virginia. A quiet, blue-collar town. Life is either quite pleasant there, or it can be a struggle. Quaint shops and a beautiful harbor bring visitors, but there's also an undercurrent around the edges where hard drugs and the addicts that depend on them lead a cycle of petty crimes and robberies. Milton and his wife Angel were living the good life there. They had a nice home and a blended family with a total of 7 kids between them. They had 2 daughters heading off to college in just days, and 5 other children out making their way in the world and doing well. The couple owned a store in town that bought and sold antiques, collectibles, gold, silver, whatever someone needed to get rid of in exchange for some cash. And Milton would purchase items of questionable provenance from addicts and ne'er-do-wells every now and then. Pawned items in the store would always be done with the proper paperwork for a pawnbroker, but he would now and then purchase items off-site without paperwork. It was a gray area, to say the least. Had that run afoul of him on this night?
She says the person had a mask on, correct? So, no, she doesn't know the person.
All right, can she tell if he's white or black?
Was he white or black? He was completely dressed in black.
All black?
She doesn't know.
Okay.
His head was completely covered in a mask, and he had on a. Said he was yelling and cussing a lot.
Okay.
He robbed their house, took all their money.
Okay. How many people? Just one person?
He was just one person, right? He didn't have anybody with him. Yes, that's correct. Just one person. Were you both tied to the bed, or tied them up in the bathroom?
All right. And so she was tied up also?
Yes, she still got some of the tape and stuff on her hands.
The 911 operator asked Angel to leave the tape that was still on her arm as it was and not to touch it. The idea was to preserve any fingerprints or evidence that might still be on it. He then asks for more of the story.
Did the suspect shoot her husband, or do you think he's dead?
Okay, so far from what I'm hearing is it sounds more like a hit to me than a robbery, really, because you're saying that they were both tied up. So if you was both tied up and y'all was duct taped and all that stuff like that, and this was a robbery, then why would he kill your husband? What was the point of killing your husband? And then where were all your kids at too? Were they at school at this time? So now I'm wondering about the timeline. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it was a robbery, because normally when people want to rob, if they're in need, they go in there, they take what they want, and they bounce and dip, right? That's usually what robbers do. Just to go out your way to harm someone, that's only if they're let's say, for example, if they're trying to rob you and then you come in and you trying to, get your stuff back or whatever, now you're harming them, then they could potentially like unalive you. But if you said that they already tied you up, all they had to do was just ransack the house and dip and run. It was no reason to kill your husband. So I don't know. It's not really making that much sense to me. But let's listen on a little bit more.
Because of the injury.
No, her husband is the cause of the injury.
And
her husband's the one that's been injured. She
okay.
says he won't wake up.
Okay.
She can't get him to wake up or anything like that. Because was your husband beaten as well?
The picture that I have right now is AI. Yeah. And I'm not AI.
And I heard a lot of wrestling around, and then I tried to get up. That's when he knocked me down, and I was like right there in the bedroom.
Police would arrive on the scene within minutes, cordoning off the area and beginning a search for the perpetrator. Angel was taken to a local hospital for treatment. Milton's lifeless body was found in the bathroom of the home, and it appeared that the home had been burglarized with a marked effort to steal cash, gold, and jewelry, items that the family's business generated on a regular basis. Milton and Angel were fairly well known throughout the community, and support was showered upon the family. Angel would come in the next morning, August the 3rd, to provide a statement to investigators and do what she could to tell them what had happened the night before. She's still visibly shaken by the night's events, and the investigators do what they can to put her at ease. They don't have an easy task here, balancing the need for details and still being sensitive to the victim.
How have you been? How have you been coping?
Can't eat, can't drink, can't sleep.
We're both sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry you're having to go through all this.
So I want to take notice of how they're talking to her and the positioning of the detectives. They are on the side of her instead of actually in front of her because they're not using a direct approach. She is not deemed as a suspect as of yet. She is a victim. So they have no reason to corner her in and make her seem that she's not going to be able to walk out the door. So I wanted to really point out the positioning of how they're sitting while they're having this conversation with her.
But we're doing everything we can. I know you talked with Aaron some, and there's some stuff that you've kind of, people are kind of talking about you and talking to you about, just personal stuff, and we're getting 5 times as much of that about basically everybody that ever shopped at the store. Right. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff coming out, and some of it's not true, some of it is true. But do you think you'd be okay to talk to us for a little while today? Like, are you
I want to clear everything up. Okay. Everybody that knows us knows that we have a good relationship. We've had, like any marriage, things. I had a hard time our first year of dating, as you would ask. I found out later, after we were already engaged, that he had been with 2 other women. And it was, but we got through it, and it was hard. He was always very jealous. It was hard for him because he's always said, "You're so attractive, you could have anyone you want." And, I would always reassure him that I just wanted him.
She would go on to say that the two didn't go out much anymore because people often thought she was Milton's daughter rather than his wife. They explained that some of the information coming in from outside were rumors that there might have been some infidelity in the relationship on her part.
The only recent thing, though, was I had been in a car accident and had gone to physical therapy, and I don't remember the exact time and dates, but my appointment had been canceled, so I forwarded him the voice message. And for whatever reason, he realized that it's a guy that I'm going to physical therapy with. And obviously, if you've ever been to physical therapy, you're in a room full of people. It's not like, but it bothered him. Like, he looked him up on Facebook, sent me a screenshot of his picture, said he's attractive, and I said, "No, he's not. I'm attracted to you. I love you. I don't care about this guy." But he was still having a hard time with it. He would get angry every time I went, so I finally just quit. I said, "I'd rather be in pain physically than to make you suffer. If it was that important to you that I not go to physical therapy, I won't go."
Angel would go on to explain that she had only gone to 2 physical therapy sessions and that she thought the man's name was Isaac. Milton, however, had become jealous, and because of rumors, he had gotten very hurt about the whole situation. She assured investigators that the two had gotten past the situation, and on the evening before the incident, they had gone out shopping together.
We had been shopping for the girls' college stuff, and he got a call from Dylan. And Dylan wanted to meet at Hardee's with his girlfriend Robin, and bought a TV that obviously had been ripped out of the wall. You could see that, it's in the truck if you want to see it, but I basically was upset with him. And I was crying the whole way home from Hardee's to our home. And I got out of the car, went inside, and he sent me a text, which you can look at it, that says that he needs to start taking my advice, that he was sorry, that he loved me.
Dylan was a name the investigators had heard in connection with this case already. A jailhouse informant had called to let them know she had heard that Dylan Clark Hostetler was definitely involved in the robbery and murder. Dylan was a 24-year-old man who had a history of petty crimes in the town and was suspected in a series of burglaries and robberies. He was also a known heroin user. He was brought in under arrest after he was found to have cocaine in his possession. His girlfriend, 18-year-old Robin Carter, was also a heroin addict, and she was questioned as well.
So what happened today?
Then she said her parents called and said that the cops would come there. Everyone just wanted to talk to us. I guess it was something to do with Milton's work. Is that what it was?
What about Milton?
Milton got killed last night.
Okay. Well, did you talk to him?
No, we didn't get him. They picked me up before that.
Why didn't you call him?
She texted him on her phone, and the guy said he was in a meeting, and he would call back as soon as he got done.
Okay. So the reason that you're here right now is because they got cocaine on you, right?
I guess so.
I mean, that's what they called me and told me.
Well, I mean, it was the damn tiniest bit of cocaine in the world, man. Oh, shit.
Alright.
They told me that I was here to talk to them and see what was going on with it.
Okay, so tell me about Milton then.
I don't know anything about Milton. I don't know anything. Robin found out that day. Josh Creasy called her. Josh called her and told her that shit. And that's when I got on. I talked to my mom. My dad's been friends with Milton for a long time. I've dealt with Milton for a long time. And then my mom talked to Wendy. Wendy, I guess, used to work for Milton. My mom was friends with Wendy. And that's when I was finding out everything, like what happened. So I guess somebody broke into his house and like the kid. I guess.
This isn't at the point where you should just stop talking and get a lawyer, because all that extra explaining and all that fillering about what's going on is, that's not what they're here. They're here to listen to, right? They don't care what happened to your mom or Wendy. Your mom and Wendy is not the one who's unalive. They got a tip that you have done burglaries around that community before and that you could have been involved in this situation. And this is why they are questioning you about your whereabouts and what you know about the situation. But yeah, we preach that over here. Like, listen, sometimes you just need to just be quiet. I know whether if you're guilty or not guilty, if you're innocent, just be quiet and discuss the situation with your lawyer and have them speak with the investigators, because you might frame things incorrectly and you think that you're being honest, but all of that is going to be used against you by these investigators. I don't know how many times do I have to say it with my whole chest. These investigators are not your friends. They are not here to help you. They're here to get the truth. They're here to get the evidence. They're here to get whatever that the state or the prosecutor needs to get a charge for a crime that's been committed. That is it. That is all. But let's go on.
I guess it sounded like James told Uncle James about it. He looked it up on the internet. It sounded like he got killed at a shop. But then Robin was saying there's something about that. Just a bunch of hearsay. I don't know anything about it, but I just know the fact that the man it happened last night.
Mm-hmm.
And we seen him last night.
Where at?
Met him at Hardy's. Robin got rid of a TV, just a little TV we had. I seen him last night. I seen him all the time, man. For a long damn time, dude. Long damn time. He gave me $10 extra last night. So I can take it off next time I see him.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
where the TV
interrogation, Tiny.
This Robin's she's been had it for a long time. They said, "Oh shit, it wasn't worth anything." That's why he was nice and looked out
Yeah,
for me. $10 for TV, got $20 altogether.
He would tell the investigators that Robin had dropped him off at his grandmother's house at about 8:30 that night. He lived there with her, his father, his uncle, and his brother. He said he slept that night on the living room floor while his uncle slept on a couch nearby. They could all vouch for him being there and that he had called Robin a number of times from the house phone and spoke with her off and on again until the early morning hours. Dylan would go on to say that he really didn't even know where Milton lived and had never met him at his house.
Man, you've done some robberies. So, your name gets brought up. Did you do this?
Mm-hmm.
From dealing with the court system that you're better off if you did it to come off of.
You definitely know, man. I do not do that shit. I might be doing dope and shit, but I ain't a fucking murderer.
Yeah. I mean, you're a murderer, but you are a robber. I mean, that's what you do. And if you go to rob somebody and it ain't your fault, if you make a mistake, then you need to own up to it.
Yeah, I'd never do that. I would not do that.
I think
was
it's a
home one
strong
night last night,
possibility. I don't
and
think that she
absolutely
did it by
home
herself.
probably was at her parents' house as well, and I did not, absolutely did not do that.
I know that you're saying that you did not do that.
I did not have anything to do with it, nothing, didn't know about it until today. Until today inside the food line when she was talking to Josh Greasy on the phone. Josh is the one that told her that, and that's when it came up.
After Dylan explains the last time he had been in Milton's store, the officers get a bit more curious about the business relationship the two had developed. In the previous week, Dylan said he had taken a pair of Air Jordans and some designer shoes and a large knife to Milton.
How much money did you get for that stuff?
$15.
For all that stuff?
Yeah, it wasn't nothing. Nothing deals with me with like whatever I got, man. Just cheap junk. You know what I mean? Just nothing. It's $15.
Does he give you a receipt or anything, or do you just like when you meet him at Hardee's, does he?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I haven't reviewed this case before, so I don't know nothing about it. I'm looking at it with fresh eyes. I believe that she was linked up with a couple of dudes, or maybe this dude, cheating on her husband, and she wanted to get rid of him and pretty much have the store for herself, right? And I think that she set it up where the boyfriend or whoever she was dealing with tied them both up, but then ended up taking out the husband. But to make it more believable and that she wouldn't be implicated in it, she was tied up and gagged and everything like that and put in the bathroom. That's what I believe. But, I can always be wrong. And it's not like I haven't been wrong before. Let's go.
You just take the TV and they give you $20. He just don't come.
Yeah, me and Milton known each other forever, man. Yeah, that's how it is.
You never had any arguments or anything?
Never, ever, man. No, Milton's a good guy, man.
Robin would corroborate Dylan's story.
So, tell me how your day went yesterday.
Just rode around really all day. And then about 8:30 is when we got up with Milton about the TV. Mm-hmm. And we met him at Hardee's around 8:30.
Okay.
So, and then I went, where did I go after I left there? I went to 2nd Street. And then I went back to Dylan's house, but I had to be home because my mom was bitching at me to come home. Mm-hmm. So I was home. So I went to Dylan's house, dropped him off, then went back to my house. And it was probably like 9. I know exactly what time it was like 9:20ish when I got there.
I used to love that show.
She would go on to illustrate that the two men had a good, if unusual, relationship. They then simply asked her who she might think had committed the crime.
Who do you think killed him?
I have no idea.
You don't think you have any idea?
No.
So when you said that that it's not, like, it never even crossed your mind that Dylan could have done something like that, it's kind of his thing, right?
No.
Like he's done home invasions and robberies before.
I know, but when Dylan cares about somebody, he truly cares about somebody. He gives his heart to people he loves, and he loved Milton. I mean, he started crying when he found out Milton was passed away.
While Dylan and Robin were the last two people to have contact with Milton and Angel before the incident, investigators would be able to clear the young couple. Their alibis were easy to verify. Rumors kept swirling in the community, though, and numerous tips and stories came into the sheriff's office over the next couple of weeks. None of them resulted in anything, until they received a call from, of all places, Oregon, some 3,000 miles away. A man called and claimed to have been visited by someone who had admitted to killing Milton. An investigator from the sheriff's office and another from the State Bureau of Investigation immediately hopped on a flight and headed out to track down this lead. They would meet with a man who went by Louis. There was a very good reason to make the trip out to rural Rickrell, Oregon. Louis, a former youth pastor, said that he had been visited by someone whose name had come up before in the story of Milton and Angel Sawyer, Isaac Melcher. The physical therapist, it had been rumored, had an affair with Angel. The three men met at a local establishment, and they asked how he knew Isaac.
Isaac was in high school and was a tough kid. I spent a lot of time with him. Flew back to the East Coast for his wedding 17 years ago, and there were 4 other guys that graduated with him that traveled with me.
We're about to
for the
learn that
wedding.
soon, Fire.
And that was probably, I think that was the last time I physically saw him. We kind of stayed in touch via Facebook and text and email through the years. My last contact with him was last summer when I was on the East Coast. We had some time, and I thought if he was close, we'd get together and visit. So when he texted me now, that was the first time that I can remember in 17 years that I've seen him. So.
All right, and then you received a text, which would have been on, do you remember what day that was?
It was on Thursday. Thursday the 9th, day after my birthday.
And then what did that text consist of?
The text more or less just said, hey, I'm in town. I'd like to visit with you. You got any time?
It seems like it's
This is Isaac. I'm in Oregon visiting my mom. I was hoping maybe I could come by and see you for a short visit.
Oh, yes, I do,
leave
Cindy.
Saturday afternoon.
Yes, I do.
That was, and I didn't get that right away. I responded at 4:20 and just said I'd like to see him and hope it works out. And then he says, should I come by the house? And I said, just depends on what time. And he says, not sure. So then the next morning at 8:15, he sent me a text that said, will 10 o'clock work? And I said, yeah. So he came in right at 10 o'clock. And we met at the house.
There, at Louie's house, the two men met, and Isaac looked like he needed desperately to unburden something.
Well, it started with his mom. I met his mom, and she says she remembers me. I don't remember her at all. As she shared, she's got cancer, and Isaac was physically, you could tell he was beat. He was depressed, wouldn't look me in the eye. He gave me a half-hearted hug when I saw him.
Thank you, Mommy 3. Mommy of 3, I hope you're enjoying. Thank you so much for
we
subbing.
went in the backyard, and you know, I was expecting to hear from him about how great his kids were doing, because I've not met his kids, and only pictures, and it was obvious he wasn't there to talk about that. And then he said, well, I kind of need some advice.
Hey, Mo Love, how you doing?
And
Merci
that's what he
beaucoup.
said.
How you doing, dear?
I think I'm going to lose everything. And I kind of, okay, this is going a different direction. And we sat fairly close to each other because he wasn't talking very loud at all, and he was talking down to the ground. You know, he was sitting with his head low like this. And there were times where I had to get fairly close to him to even hear what he was saying. And he just started telling the story, and it just kept getting worse and worse.
Isaac would admit to having an affair with Angel that started at the physical therapy office. He explained how the affair had grown over time, and then Milton had found out, and there had been a confrontation at the office. The affair became harder to maintain, but the two did.
They began, he said that they began plotting, in his words, get rid of, I remember that distinctly, to get rid of the old man. And they were going to use pills and make it look like an overdose. And they
This investigation or this conversation, I would say, that he's having is so damaging to this woman, because now it's first-degree murder. They've been planning this for a while. There was a reason why her husband didn't want her around this doctor or therapist, and it all makes sense now, right? So while she was trying to say that he was just being jealous for no reason, he had a reason to be weary of her and him. And the simple fact that this is on this guy's chest like that he had to go all the way to Oregon to tell a friend that he used to be close to 17 years ago, everything that was going on, that means it really was eating him up inside. And he probably has a lot of regret because he did it in the name of love. He probably didn't have nothing against Milton. And yeah, now it's not sitting well with him. He had to get it off his chest. But this is damaging. This is completely damaging because especially if he comes or they bring him to the trial, he has no reason to lie. He doesn't even know that girl, and he haven't spoken nor been in contact with the guy that helped her in 17 years. He doesn't have no affiliation with their pawn shop or their family. So he really doesn't have no reason to lie. And why do he know so much stuff in detail? Very, very damaging for her. Very damaging. And him, Isaac.
I just couldn't decide on when that was going to happen or how that was going to happen. And, you know, in the middle of this, I'm asking questions, trying to figure out if this is even really happening.
The next part, Louis said, took Isaac some time to get out, struggling to either find the words or the courage.
He went to the house, and I don't know how he got in. He must have had a key, or they don't lock doors there. I don't know. But he said he was in the hallway.
Thank you, Marlene. Appreciate you.
To the bedroom for about 10 minutes, trying to get up the courage to go in there and do what he was going to do. And while he was waiting and trying to figure it out, Angel came out of the bedroom to get a snack. And of course they quickly whispered to each other and came up with the plan. And then he marched in, put a gun to his head, tied him up, and he said all our plans went out the window because he was just so big. Those were his words. After a while, I mean, I had to let him kind of stew on it for a bit. He said, I drug him into the bathroom. In his words, I killed him. I asked him how he did it. It was the one time he looked me in the eye. And he said, you really want to know? And I said, well, yeah, I want to know. I want to know, did you kill him with the gun? Did you put a bullet in his head? You know, that's what I was expecting him to say. And he said, no, I choked him. I got him in a chokehold. I was behind him, and I just choked him and squeezed his neck until he died.
The investigators had their man, but they only had the information secondhand. It was far from a legal confession from Isaac, but perhaps with Louis' assistance, they could get Isaac to either admit to the killing outright or at least acknowledge enough connections to bring him in. They arranged for Louis to get back in touch with Isaac, and over 3 phone calls, they were able to finally connect the dots. In the first call, Isaac asked if Louis had downloaded an app to his phone that would allow him to talk and text without leaving any records. While the app might have been secure, simply recording the conversations from the speaker setting was sufficient to overcome that. In the next call, Louis tries to get Isaac to get out from under all of this and just turn himself in.
You know, because this has consumed my thoughts since we've talked, and, you know, and I don't know, Isaac, if you're convinced that your time is limited, maybe you should just go in and tell your story and ask for leniency. I mean,
I know what you're saying. I do.
Okay.
I really do. And I have considered it.
And then he asks about Angel.
Have you been in contact with the other lady at all?
What day did I see you?
That was Friday.
Okay, I had contacted her like 2 days before that. And since then, no, and I plan to not. because, to be honest with you, one of the hardest things about things, like I said, right now we are just trying to be thankful for the day we have. But my heart is still very much tied to her, and I am grieving right now because somehow I had told myself that I would make this work and I would be with her, and obviously that's not gonna happen.
There's little doubt anymore. It is time to go back across the country and round up not just Isaac, but Angel too. Isaac is a
Yeah, that phone call was damaging, but I wanted to point this out. Shout out to Louis, right? Because it takes a lot of moral compass and guts to have all that type of information and to keep it to yourself. He did the right thing, got in contact with the police and let them know everything that he did. And he also assisted with them so they can get more confirmation that these two worked with each other, that he has been in touch with her, and somewhat acknowledgement of what he have done, right? So they wouldn't have just secondhand information, right? Because Isaac could say by being approached to the detective that Louis is lying and I haven't seen him in 17 years. He doesn't know what he's talking about, or he probably misunderstood what I said, right? So that's why they need to hear it from the horse's mouth. But shout out for him to even be willing to do something like that. A lot of people is not willing to do things like that, especially when we have this thing where we have loyalty to people, our loved ones, our friends, people that we share close environments with. That bias that we have usually gives those people that we love grace for certain things that we do, right? And we'll say, oh, we don't want to snitch on them because we don't want to see them harmed, we don't want to see them hurt, we don't want to see them in prison. It takes a lot of guts to do that. A lot of people wouldn't do it. A lot of people wouldn't do it. So I will shout out to Louis for being able to stand up and do the right thing. And on top of that, if you think about it, he even put himself in danger by doing that, right? Because isn't that guy over there with him or was around him? He knows where he lives now. That's how they had the conversation. He put his whole self in danger. If Isaac found that he was talking to the police and he let all that know, what would stop Isaac from trying to kill him? He already killed before, right? So there's a level of danger by doing the right thing. So we have to give credit where credit is due. Let's go on.
arrested and brought in. Angel thinks she is being brought in for some additional information. Isaac, at first, declines to waive his Miranda rights and speak with the police, but then he decides to sign a document allowing them to discuss the case with him. He is advised, even after signing it, that he can still refuse to continue the questioning at any time.
So, what led us here has obviously been kind of fluid until the past week or so. Initially, there was a lot of rumors of affairs between yourself and Angel. Strictly that. Since then, that has been confirmed through various, Facebook records, Facebook messengers, phone records, Signal, all kinds of stuff. About a week ago is when it became a lot more clear when you talk to Louis. Every conversation you have with Louis was recorded.
So I'm definitely going to let it play on, but now I want y'all to look at the positioning of the investigators, how they're sitting and how they are triangle in what's his name? Isaac. Yeah. Look how they're sitting. You have one detective right in front of the door. You have the other one right aside of him. They're letting him know in his psyche, there's no getting out of this. You know what I'm saying? You're not going home. This is not just a regular conversation and you're going to go home. You're not getting out of this. They're letting that know. And you can see the difference about how he's sitting in the chair and he knows that, he's screwed. He can't even look them in the eye. He has his hands folded. So he's looking that he seems guilty. That's the stance that he has. But I wanted you to definitely pay attention to how the detectives are sitting. That is a psyche move, letting you know that you're not getting out of here. You know, this is not coast is clear for you. Let's go on.
We know about the planning. We know about the affair. We know that initially it was supposed to be an overdose. We know about the phone you gave Angel. Angel's also being arrested, not based off entirely your statement to Louis. If during the interview with Angel, she pins it on you, it does not look good. I understand that there's been some conversation about the death penalty, which is not completely off the table, but just to give you a real world view, kind of like we talked about in the car, no one has been executed in North Carolina in over a decade, and it's not likely that they will ever be executed again. So even a death penalty sentence is just a long life sentence.
Looking down the barrel of a lifelong sentence, they make sure that Isaac is focused on what he can and can't do to help him in his own case.
And there's a possibility that if you did cooperate and provide a statement, that you could not spend the rest of your life in prison and see your kids before you die and hold them in person. So if this is something that, as you said to Louis, that you guys planned for months on end, just knowing, just in the brief conversations I've had with Angel, she's likely to cooperate when we talk to her.
No matter the strength of the appeal they made to the man, Isaac decides not to speak.
If you guys have said what you need to, I would like to be done with the conversation now.
Okay. All right.
In another part of the building, Angel has been brought in under the pretense to look at some jewelry and items to see if they were ones taken from her home on the night.
Pay attention again. You see? They're not sitting the same way they were sitting with her in the beginning with the initial conversation that they had with her. They're sitting again, one on the side of her, one in front of her, and one and the one detective in front of the door. It's not the same situation anymore. You are definitely the suspect. You're not getting out of here the way you think you're getting out of here. That's why they have a whole different approach. What they was trying to tell Isaac is that eventually that by them having conversations with this lady, she's most likely is going to pin it all on you. She's going to make it seem like she was fearing for her life. She had to go along with it. She was under distress. You know, she's going to pin it all on you. So they was giving him the opportunity to say, hey, I know we planned this together, but was this originally your plan or was it her plan and you just followed it because you was you was in love with her and all you wanted to do was be with her? They was giving him that opportunity to, to express what he had to say about the whole situation. But obviously he's head over heels in love. He doesn't want to betray her, so he doesn't care. And that's why he ended his interrogation process. So now we're going to watch what she has to say and see whether or not if she gives him up or if she's going to actually come out with the truth, because they have enough evidence to prove that, they planned this for months before it actually happened.
Night of the killing.
Originally, I had some jewelry and stuff I wanted to show you today. Was the plan. And talk to you about some other leads we had. And in the turn of events this morning, Isaac has been under arrest. He's come in this morning.
Good.
So
that's him?
Well, he's said a lot of stuff about you.
About me?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well, that's what we need to talk about.
Okay.
And get straight. He's told us stuff about the affair, and then things about you wanting to leave Milton, and so we need to get all that out in the open.
And something else that we wanted to talk about is that there's I had an interaction a little over a week ago with your Facebook Messenger stuff.
Yes, sir.
And we've started to get some records back. And it appears that you guys have been in communication for a while through a variety of different apps, Facebook Messenger and Signal and stuff like that.
The investigators let her know that evidence is showing that the communications from Isaac were never really just a one-sided conversation, and that each day more deleted texts were being recovered from the various apps they used. She denies it, and they call her on it, but they give her a way out. Was she actually afraid of Isaac?
I think you're afraid of him.
I'm terrified of him because he's crazy.
Well, you should also be terrified of him because you saw him kill your husband.
I do not know that it was him or not him. He did not address me in any shape or form.
No,
and he was.
That's good.
Girl, bye. Now you terrified of him and because he's crazy, but you was literally speaking to him a week ago before they brung you in here. Stop it. Like we all said that she was going to pin it on him and throw it on him, and they wanted to see if she's going to take the bait, and this is why he asked her and said, well, I just think you was afraid of him. That was all bait. They know that she's not afraid of him, but they wanted to see if they was to give her a little cookie, was she going to go grab at it? And she grabbed at it with the quickness, with self-preservation, didn't she? That love is in the air went right out the window, didn't it? Girl, talking about I'm terrified of him.
Let's get away from that.
And I'll tell you why. Because the initial plan was to give Milton pills and vodka.
Still, she wants to hold on to her story, modifying it slightly to fit the new information.
I want to put you in the best light. You understand that, okay?
Yes.
I believe that you were there. You know you were there. You know he did it, without a doubt. Based on everything he's told us, there's nothing you can say to me that's going to make me believe anything else. I think this person came in your house, he was in love with you and would do anything to be with you, including kill Milton.
But I didn't want to be with him.
I understand that, but if he's this obsessed with you, that he would do this, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't tell him no?
I didn't.
You need to put yourself in front of this, because right now he's trying to throw you under the bus. You understand that?
He has told us everything.
Yes, if you're afraid of him and he's done all this stuff and you knew about it, but you're just afraid of him, then now's the time. He is locked up in handcuffs downstairs right now. He is not going to come after you. But you need to look out for you. And that means you're going to have to tell us exactly what the deal was.
She reiterates that she was still in love with Milton and jumps back to the night of the killing, this time telling a slightly different story.
And when he came in, it did not click with me, honestly, who it was, because it happened so fast until he was on top of Milton, and I was begging him to please stop. I love my husband. I want to be with him. Please stop. And that's when you put the gun in my head, and he said, shut the fuck up, bitch. This is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I will never be with you. I will never be with you. You're terrifying me. I hate you. All of those things. But I do not want, I am terrified of him. I have been for months. That's why I started sharing everything with Milton.
Over the next half hour, the investigators delve back into the relationship between Angel and Isaac, letting her know that they know there was more than just a couple of sexual encounters between the two. She pleads her innocence and says that it had been months since the two had been together.
Well, she took the bait. She took the bait, and they wanted to see how far she was going to go. Yeah. Oh my God. Omni said she's a whole origami. Yes. She took the bait. And she doesn't even realize she took the bait. Now, I know a lot of people will say that the detectives were lying to her when they said that he's ratting you out and all the stuff like that. It's not considered lying. It's considered a tactic, right? Whether they want to believe it or not, whatever they say is from their own will. Nobody forced them to do it. It's called fabrication, okay? So it's not illegal. He did. Obviously, we know that he didn't rat on her. But look at her; she's ratting now. Then 1 minute she said that she didn't even know. It happened so fast that she didn't even know who actually came into the house. But then you're telling him, "No, I don't never want to be with you. I love my husband. Please leave me alone." Who are you telling that to? You're not telling that to a complete stranger. So you know exactly who was there in your house. It's just unfortunate that but this is what happens when people when the heat is on, especially in the interrogation room. You start to see where you really stand with people, and a lot of people would do a lot of things just to save themselves, and this is what we're seeing right now. Let's go on.
They go back to asking about the night of the killing.
So when you open the door that night, he's standing there. He tells us that when you came out, that he has a conversation with you before he goes in the room.
No, that is a lie.
Hi, Rosie.
I
Thank
swear
you
to
for
you, that
stopping
is a
by.
lie.
I appreciate
I
it.
opened the door and the door pushed open like this. And he immediately started screaming and yelling and cussing, and I had no idea it was
And how
him.
was he really? Was he really dressed in black? Was he just himself?
He was all
was
in
he like
black.
normal?
Nope, he was all in black. Right down to the shoes. He had a mask on that was a dark gray. You could not see anything. That is the truth. When he came in the room, he was cussing and screaming, "Get down on the floor. No one's going to get hurt as long as you cooperate." He said, "I know you're the #1 gold buyer in Elizabeth City." He said all of those things. He said he was gonna, he just basically said, "I want all your money, your jewelry, your, all that stuff."
The investigators are beginning to point out the holes in her story, but they let her spin it out some more.
And when you said that he had a conversation with you about what you were going to tell the police, what did he tell you to tell us?
That basically someone had broken in and that they stole the stuff, which is, what you really did do.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I said, like I said, up until that point, and, I even have written a letter already in my Bible that, I'm going to.
Yes, Cindy dear, she is still sticking to the original story of it being a robbery and him saying that he knows that he's the most successful pawn shop in the town. She's still sticking to it. She's still sticking to it. I know. I was like, what, for a moment in my head too. Yes. Tiff said, "I love me some crime." Oh, hey, Tiff. Thank you for stopping by. I truly appreciate you. Not a letter in the Bible. Yes, Cindy, exactly. Went from gifted lover to robber. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And she's acting like they don't have the messages that she was sending to him and speaking with him while he was in Oregon, spilling his guts to a childhood friend. She doesn't know that. So she's not, like I said, she's not thinking in that way. Let's go on. This girl.
Get the girls to school, and then I'm going to come and let them know that,
Angel is definitely no angel.
Her explanations of innocence are falling on less than sympathetic ears as she goes on.
So why should we believe you, who's told us at least 2 or 3 sets of lies, and not Isaac, who the only time he's ever spoken about this has just regurgitated everything that happened?
You're right. I wouldn't blame you for not believing me. I had an affair.
Hey, Corinne, how you doing, sis? Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by.
The type of person that he was. And I don't blame you for not believing me. I mean,
when he sent you messages about murdering your husband,
I totally agree.
And asking you to assist him in that, why didn't you call the police?
Because I didn't think it would really happen.
What? What? She said she didn't think. she didn't think it would really happen. That's why you didn't call the police. So again, you talking about you was scared. You never told this man to come here. You never told this man to do this. He tied you up him as well. You was like, no, leave my husband alone. I love him. But now is I don't call 911. Many times you had the ability to call 911. I don't call 911 because I didn't think it was really going to happen. This is when you should just be quiet. At this point, she should have had just be quiet and got a lawyer because she's just making herself look bad. And what she's establishing to the detectives is you are the mastermind behind this whole situation, this whole crime. You're the mastermind. That's what you let them know. You wasn't coerced. You wasn't fearful of your life. You was the one who put the whole thing into play. That's what you definitely said. Yes, this is my merch. I got my merch on today. Yes, I have my merch on today. Shout out to the Move Around Girl sweater. You know, that's at my store if anybody's interested in it. Let's go on.
I want you to assume that every message you ever sent him that we have the content of.
Okay.
We may not, but we may.
Okay.
And we don't have all of them yet. We're getting them in pieces.
I understand.
So just understand that when you're going back and forth with him and he's talking to you on Messenger and probably on the phone about leaving pills
I've
out.
never talked to him on the phone.
Hey Bridget, how are you doing today? Hope everything's well.
I didn't do it though.
And I'm not saying you did because that's not how he died. But do I think that there was a plan? Yeah, I absolutely think there was a plan. Whether or not you took it serious or didn't, at some point in time, you did not convince him to not murder your husband.
I tried. I thought I had. I didn't know he was coming that night.
Finally, after a few more minutes of pointing out inconsistencies, they've had enough. The two investigators leave for a few minutes. They want to give Angel some time to herself, a chance for the weight of the situation to bear down on her. They return, and the local investigator from the sheriff's office makes a last personal appeal. Angel goes through the whole night again. This time, there's a different tone, one of resignation. From going out to dinner to meeting with Dylan and his girlfriend, to coming home and binge-watching 3 episodes of the Game of Thrones, making love to her husband, and then getting up to get a snack.
I opened the door. He came in, yelling, screaming, all those things that I told you. Milton laid on the ground here. I got a shirt on and laid down over here. He took Milton into the bathroom. I heard some wrestling around. Then he told me to come in there. Told me to lay down so he could take me up. Then he didn't. I was sitting up against the tub. I was screaming, I was crying, I was begging him to stop. He heard the TV. He was on top of Milton, heard the TV, went out. Because he thought it was, he was like, is there any effing kids home? I'm gonna kill him. Is there anybody upstairs? Blah, blah, blah. And then came back and he was on Milton again and I was still screaming.
She's starting to get on my nerves because I don't believe none of that. I really don't. I do not believe any of that, ma'am. You're still trying to make it seem like you had this psycho side, I would say side chick if he was a girl, but you had this psycho side dude and he wouldn't leave you alone after you was like, you know what, I'm going to make it work with my husband. And he just forcibly came in there and said, no, you're going to be with me. And I'm going to unalive your husband and we're going to be together. And it's just like knowing that she's trying to play it like that this guy was just psychotic and he wouldn't leave her alone. He wouldn't say no, no means no. But then you was literally talking to him a week after your husband been unalive. You're found to be in chats and discords and other apps that you thought is secured, texting back and forth with him, but he's the psycho that killed your husband though, right? It's just like, it's really getting on my nerve. So as of right now, the charge is definitely going to be first degree murder because her and her lover plotted for months to unalive her husband. Yes. Definitely first-degree murder. Yeah, and she would do it again. It's sad. It's really, really sad because she was like, "Oh, I tried to stop him." No, you didn't. You didn't try to stop him. It's just annoying me now.
And crying and telling him to get off, leave him alone, don't hurt him. And that's when he put the gun in my face and said, "Don't you know who this is?"
She ain't gonna get nothing now.
I said no, and then
She's definitely not gonna get nothing now.
And I said, "Please stop. I don't want to be with you." I've made it clear by not picking up the phone. I've made it clear by not, telling you I'm not going to participate, that I'm not going to do any of these things, that my husband and I have worked things out. And then he had me come out. He did, in fact, ask me where the jewelry was. He did, in fact, get a pillowcase and put the jewelry in it. He did, in fact, take all the money and the key. When after that, he asked if he said, "I'm gonna have to hit you." I said, I just want you to leave. I don't care, whatever you have to do. And then he said, "Well, I have to hit you because you have to stick to this story. If you don't stick to this story, then I'm gonna come back for you. You obviously can see that I'm capable of murder. I'm gonna come back and murder you and your kids. I did this for you, I did this for you." And I kept saying, "You didn't do it for me because I'm not interested in being with you. It's why I didn't get the phone out when you bought it. This is why I stopped communicating with you. This is why I haven't seen you outside of anything. There's no sexual, no anything outside of the one time I saw him at Walmart."
Exactly,
And
Cindy.
then he taped my hands behind my back. I don't know if it was loose, I would assume, to get my other hand out. He told me.
She's annoying me so bad because you did not have this 100% full detail conversation while he unalived your husband. You didn't have that type of conversation. "Oh, listen, you have to stick to the story and I have to hit you and make it." No, y'all talked about this months ago. You talked about it months ago. Like, y'all not having a whole full conversation after unaliving someone in that way. You're not doing it. It doesn't happen that way. No, you're not just sitting there for a good hot 15 minutes and deciding, okay, well, guess what? We have to make it believable. You already know that y'all was going to do that. It's just it's annoying me a little bit. It's because she's really trying to make herself seem like she's honest, and now she's being really forthcoming, but you're not. You was the mastermind of everything.
Me that to lay there and don't move, and he did come back for the pillow and wiped up something about his footprints. He did in fact come back for a phone that he dropped. The only thing that was wrong and untruthful is that I knew who it was at that point in the bathroom.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do enjoy watching body language.
Wasn't coming back. I had hoped that Milton was still okay. I went in there. Everything is true. I did push my body up against him. I did throw up, and I did get this one hand out, and it was pretty easy, but it was taped like this while I was laying flat on the ground, right on the side of the bed where Milton had originally been.
Correct.
And I didn't help move anything. I didn't tell him what to take. I didn't anything because I was still crying and I was bleeding and I was upset and I was terrified.
Yeah.
But I did not conspire. I see how it looks that way because I didn't tell him. I said I wouldn't participate, but the fact that I didn't call the police immediately, I understand that how it looks, and I don't blame you for.
So is this a true statement? He had this conversation with you prior to talking about wanting to use pills and make it look like an overdose.
Yes.
And that was his plan. That's what he wanted to do. I'm assuming the plan did not go according to that.
Right. And I have to assume that because I didn't respond and I wouldn't do that he came, because he did say when he was freaking out and everything, and I realized it was him, he said, "I don't know what came over me. I don't know what came over me. I just you weren't talking to me, and I freaked out because you're not talking to me, and I didn't understand why you're not talking to me anymore. I didn't understand why you wouldn't go get the phone. I got this for you so we could communicate. And I said, I told you I didn't want to communicate. And he said, well, I lost it. I don't know why I lost it tonight. You didn't answer. You're not answering your messages. You're not talking to me. And I got worried, and I came here, and I don't know what came over me, and I freaked out. Those were his words when he left.
And now the tale was out, and from here, the rest would have to happen in court. Everything would work its way out in court eventually.
Yep.
Isaac Melcher would make a plea deal to be sentenced to second-degree murder in the killing of Milton Sawyer. He would be given the maximum sentence of 25 years with a minimum of 20 years. Angel would not take a plea deal and instead went to trial on charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder.
So obviously Isaac is smart, and Angel, she ain't wrapped too tight. She thinks that is believable that she didn't set this up. She didn't set her husband up to be unalive when there's too much information about that. Isaac knows that, it's already been confirmed that, he did it. And I think he actually took what the detective said about, hey, listen, do you want to at least be able, after you do your crime, to see your children, before you leave this earth? You know what I'm saying? I think he took it. He took that to heart, and he was like, you know what? I do want to see my kids. I want to do my crime. I know I was stupid, I was foolish, and I have to do the time, but I do want to see my kids again before I leave this earth. And that's why he took second-degree murder. But she's full of herself. She thinks that she's going to get away with all this, and that's why her dumb ass went to trial. Ooh, girl, Angel.
Murder. After a 4-day trial in which Angel declined to testify, jurors returned a guilty verdict on both counts. She would be given a life sentence on the first-degree murder count and a maximum of 201 months for the conspiracy charge. She would file an appeal, but the judgment would later be upheld.
Angel, I don't know who told you. I don't know who your lawyer was. Who told you that was a good idea? Girl, that was not a good idea. That was not a good idea. You could have had at least gotten it down to maybe a manslaughter, because, you didn't actually do the killing. But nope. You got life, child. You got life. Hey, serve you right. I don't even feel bad for you. Like, you shouldn't be out there killing nobody anyway, and setting up your husband and playing with people's minds and feelings and stuff like that. Like, that's just wicked and cruel. And you know what? She probably thought that she was going to live her best life with a young buck, and she was going to have all this money from the life insurance, all the money from the pawn shop and everything like that. And, the things that people do, man, and they don't really think things through. And it's, prayers to that man. He lost his life and all that stuff like that. And a lot of people got, was involved with this. A lot of people's lives was affected. And I don't think that we look at affecting people's lives around us more than what we should, when we do certain things, right? Because we live in a society that tells us, oh, listen, I only care about me. I only do what I want. It doesn't matter, but you don't live in a society by yourself. You live in a society with so many other people. So it's not trying to say that you have to curb your life to other people, but you should be mindful and contribute to your society, right? That's all our responsibility. And the things that you do affect your community. The things that you do affect your neighbors. It affects your loved ones. It affects people who any forms of walk of life that interact with you. So just keep that in mind. That's all I would have to say about that. Not preachy, but all I have to say about that. Well, guys, I'm only going to do 2 cases today. Like I said, I was a little under the weather, but I had made a promise, and I said I was going to come back this Tuesday with cases. I will be back on Thursday with 3 more cases for you guys. I think by Thursday, I will be feeling a whole lot better. I want to appreciate everyone who came in today, all the newcomers that showed up, all the other content creators that came to show support and love. Truly appreciate you guys. Please just make sure you hit the like button for me. It really does help the channel. It helps me get into the algorithm, and I can continue to do great work for you. If you're interested, I do have my store where I have men and women sweatshirts. We have the Corner Boys sweatshirts, and we have the Move Around sweatshirts for women. I have cups. I have a cup that says Caliente, meaning that stop talking to these investigators and these police officers. They're nobody's friends. Anything that you're interested in, just check out my store if you're interested. I truly, truly, truly appreciate every single last one of you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. I really, really do. Because I have to get ready to go to work as well, too. But take care, everyone, and I'll see you on Thursday. I'll hit the notification to let you guys know. Until then, bye, everyone.